but a neurotic can enjoy a party for reasons unrelated to the real activities taking place. He may hate or despise or fear all the people present. He may act like a noisy fool and feel secretly ashamed of it, but he will feel that he is enjoying it all because people are emitting the vibrations of approval, or because it is a social distinction to have been invited to this party, or because other people appear to be gay, or because the party has spared him for the length of an evening the terror of being alone. The pleasure of being drunk is obviously the pleasure of escaping from the responsibility of consciousness. And so are the kind of social gatherings held for no other purpose than the expression of hysterical chaos, where the guests wander around in an alcoholic stupor, prattling noisily and senselessly, and enjoying the illusion of a universe where one is not burdened with purpose, logic, reality, or awareness. Observe, in this connection, the modern beatniks, for instance, their manner of dancing. What one sees is not smiles of authentic enjoyment, but the vacant, staring eyes, the jerky, disorganized movements of what looks like decentralized bodies, all working very hard, with a kind of flat-footed hysteria, at projecting an air of the purposeless, the senseless, the mindless. This is the pleasure of unconsciousness. Or consider the quieter kind of pleasures that fill many people's lives: family picnics, ladies' parties or coffee klatches, charity bazaars, vegetative kinds of vacation, all of them occasions of quiet boredom for all concerned, in which the boredom is the value. Boredom to such people means safety, the known, the usual, the routine, the absence of the new, the exciting, the unfamiliar, the demanding. What is a demanding pleasure? A pleasure that demands the use of one's mind, not in the sense of problem solving, but in the sense of exercising discrimination, judgment, awareness. One of the cardinal pleasures of life is offered to man by works of art. Art at its highest potential, as the projection of things as they might be and ought to be, can provide man with an invaluable emotional fuel. But, again, the kind of artworks one responds to depends on one's deepest values and premises. A man can seek the projection of the heroic, the intelligent, the efficacious, the dramatic, the purposeful, the stylized, the ingenious, the challenging. He can seek the pleasure of admiration, of looking up to great values. Or he can seek the satisfaction of contemplating gossip columbarians of the folks next door, with nothing demanded of him, neither in thought nor in value standards. He can feel himself pleasantly warmed by projections of the known and familiar, seeking to feel a little less of a stranger and afraid in a world he never made. Or his soul can vibrate affirmatively to projections of horror and human degradation. He can feel gratified by the thought that he's not as bad as the dope-addicted dwarf or the crippled lesbian he's reading about. He can relish in art which tells him that man is evil, that reality is unknowable, that existence is unendurable, that no one can help anything, that his secret terror is normal. Art projects an implicit view of existence, and it is one's own view of existence that determines the art one will respond to. The soul of the man whose favorite play is Cyrano de Bergerac is radically different from the soul of the man whose favorite play is Waiting for Godot. Of the various pleasures that man can offer himself, the greatest is pride, the pleasure he takes in his own achievements and in the creation of his own character. The pleasure he takes in the character and achievements of another human being is that of admiration. The highest expression of the most intense union of these two responses, pride and admiration, is romantic love. Its celebration is sex. It is in this sphere, above all, in a man's romantic sexual responses, that his view of himself and of existence stands eloquently revealed. A man falls in love with and sexually desires the person who reflects his own deepest values. There are two crucial respects in which a man's romantic sexual responses are psychologically revealing: in his choice of partner and in the meaning to him of the sexual act. A man of self-esteem, a man in love with himself and with life, feels an intense need to find human beings he can admire, to find a spiritual equal whom he can love. The quality that will attract him most is self-esteem. Self-esteem and an unclouded sense of the value of existence. To such a man, sex is an act of celebration. Its meaning is a tribute to himself and to the woman he has chosen, the ultimate form of experiencing concretely and in his own person the value and joy of being alive. The need for such an experience is inherent in man's nature. But if a man lacks the self-esteem to earn it, he attempts to fake it, and he chooses his partner, subconsciously, by the standard of her ability to help him fake it, to give him the illusion of a self-value he does not possess and of a happiness he does not feel. Thus, if a man is attracted to a woman of intelligence, confidence, and strength, if he is attracted to a heroine, he reveals one kind of soul. If instead he is attracted to an irresponsible, helpless scatterbrain whose weakness enables him to feel masculine, he reveals another kind of soul. If he is attracted to a frightened slut whose lack of judgment and standards allows him to feel free of reproach, he reveals another kind of soul. The same principle, of course, applies to a woman's romantic sexual choices. The sexual act has a different meaning for the person whose desire is fed by pride and admiration, to whom the pleasurable self-experience it affords is an end in itself, and for the person who seeks in sex the proof of masculinity or femininity, or the amelioration of despair, or a defense against anxiety, or an escape from boredom. Paradoxically, it is the so-called pleasure chasers, the men who seemingly live for nothing but the sensation of the moment, who are concerned only with having a good time, who are psychologically incapable of enjoying pleasure as an end in itself. The neurotic pleasure chaser imagines that, by going through the motions of a celebration, he will be able to make himself feel that he has something to celebrate. One of the hallmarks of the man who lacks self-esteem, and the real punishment for his moral and psychological default, is the fact that all his pleasures are pleasures of escape from the two pursuers whom he has betrayed and from whom there is no escape, reality and his own mind. Since the function of pleasure is to afford man a sense of his own efficacy, the neurotic is caught in a deadly conflict. He is compelled by his nature as man to feel a desperate need for pleasure as a confirmation and expression of his control over reality, but he can find pleasure only in an escape from reality. That is the reason why his pleasures do not work, why they bring him not a sense of pride, fulfillment, inspiration, but a sense of guilt, frustration, hopelessness, shame. The effect of pleasure on a man of self-esteem is that of a reward and a confirmation. The effect of pleasure on a man who lacks self-esteem is that of a threat, the threat of anxiety, the shaking of the precarious foundation of his pseudo-self-value, the sharpening of the ever-present fear that the structure will collapse and he will find himself face to face with a stern, absolute, unknown, and unforgiving reality. One of the commonest complaints of patients who seek psychotherapy is that nothing has the power to give them pleasure, that authentic enjoyment seems impossible to them. This is the inevitable dead end of the policy of pleasure as escape. To preserve an unclouded capacity for the enjoyment of life is an unusual moral and psychological achievement. Contrary to popular belief, it is the prerogative not of mindlessness, but of an unremitting devotion to the act of perceiving reality and of a scrupulous intellectual integrity. It is the reward of self-esteem. February 1964.